Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. A very good morning to all the viewers. I'm Hiral Tatia. Clearly, if you go to see, it has been a volatile morning. Clearly, we opened at 2110. That was the high as well. And from there, inched lower to levels of 19914 already in trade. But again, we've come back above those 20,000 levels. So it's going to be interesting to see what levels we are able to maintain in today's session. And you have Bank Nifty as well, which is absolutely on the borderline with the advanced decline ratio pretty much in favor of the declines. But let's welcome in Avinash Gorakshakar to discuss more in terms of the newsmakers and the movers and shakers in trade today. Good morning, Avinash.
Yeah, good morning, Hiral.
Avinash, let's start with the large cap names. L&T, on the back of the change in the buyback price, strong moves coming in terms of L&T in today's session. What's your view, and what would you advise investors who are holding L&T shares to do?
Hiral, I think the buyback price being upgraded to 3,200 is definitely a positive surprise. I think even without the buyback price, our sense is that within the infra pack and the defense sector, I think L&T is very strongly positioned. Not only do they have a very strong order book, I think the execution has been very strong, and I would not be surprised that the second and the third quarter would be equally be good for Larsen and Toubro. Our sense is that looking at the kind of rally in defense companies and infra companies, I think L&T deserves to be re-rated. So our sense is that we could expect levels of around 3,000 odd levels, and considering that the buyback price has been increased, I think you could definitely expect a short-term bounce continuing from here on. So I think not only from a fundamental perspective, but from a from a buyback kind of price perspective, the price point would definitely get more closer to the buyback price as the buyback opens. In fact, today is the last day for the buyback, the record date. So after that, I think you could possibly see a lot of action going forward based on the buyback, activities which happen in the market.
Right. So that's with regards to where L&T goes. Moving on, L&T Finance is another one on the back of the block that we were talking about for this morning, where Bain was looking to sell stake. What's your view on L&T Finance?
So I think L&T Finance, after the block deal, has seen a lot of buying, by other institutional investors. And I think as far as the business model of L&T Finance is concerned, I think they've been doing very well on the infra financing side, plus on the auto financing side, as well as the tractor financing side. Our sense is that you could see stronger numbers, coming in for the second half of this financial year. And I think in terms of the loan book growth, the disbursals, as well as the asset quality, L&T Finance is very well positioned. So I would not be surprised that you could see some further buying post this block deal. And I think one could also like to know who are the institutional investors who actually got in this block deal. I think more institutional investors coming on board obviously gives more stability to the stock going forward.
Right. Moving on, metal names have been in focus as well, and two reasons. One is the positive data that has come in from China, and secondly, India is imposing an anti-dumping duty on some Chinese steel for the next 5 years. How do you think this will impact the metal counters, and do you think a right time to invest?
So I think metal companies, I think clearly demand trends in the domestic market are pretty strong. I think you're going to see a lot of, projects being put out by the government. And in an election year, I would not be surprised that the next 6 months, here you could see a lot of projects being announced, both on the EPC as well as on the infrastructure side. Obviously, metal companies would benefit. And I think we are seeing a strong uptake of steel, especially from, sectors like auto components, capital goods. So I think the demand is very much there. The only point of concern is the global metal prices, which still continue to be soft. But I think for integrated players like Tata Steel, we believe that possibly this could be a good opportunity to get re-rated. I think there have been some restructuring, news flows also for Tata Steel. But I think the overall metal pack will see a little bit of positivity. The longer term, I think it would all depend on global metal prices. So I think till then, larger players like Tata Steel are our top bets in the sector.
Right. Moving on, taking MRPL and Chennai Petro into consideration, 2 days, Chennai Petro has seen gains of almost 15%. A couple of triggers that have worked in the favor is in terms of oil inventories being low. Plus, you're talking about crude, which is sustained above $90 per barrel. How would you look at MRPL? Because MRPL has not seen that kind of a rally as Chennai Petro. So, do you think it will be a good investment bet to see a catch up?
Yeah, I think definitely MRPL could see a catch up if crude prices continue to be sustained at these levels. My sense is that I think the kind of move we have seen in Chennai Petro, 15%, has been quite sharp and pretty rapid. So I think probably you could see some consolidation and some profit booking. But I think MRPL, if one were to take a view of at least next 6 to 12 months, obviously I think in terms of numbers, in terms of the margins, I think the picture presents a pretty strong, robust kind of financial, growth forward. So I think MRPL for investors who want to take a 6 to 12 month call could definitely, look at it, at the current odd levels. Even the markets today have corrected. So I think you could probably see, these kind of stocks also getting impacted, moderately. So this is a good time to accumulate, provided the investment time horizon is at least about 8 to 12 months.
Right. So that's with regards to a few of the names that we're discussing. Apart from that, how are you looking at a Laurus Laboratories in trade? What's your view?
Yeah, I think Laurus Labs, my sense is that it would still be at least another 2 to 3 quarters before we see some visible signs of the benefits of new investments which the company has put out. In fact, today Kotak has given a sell call.
Mm.
Our sense is that that has obviously dampened the sentiment in the very near term. But from a fundamental perspective, I think most of the damage has already got reflected in the price. If some were to take a next 2 to 3 quarter kind of call, obviously, margins are not going to improve in the immediate 1 or 2 quarters, but obviously, if you take a longer term view of 12 to 18 months going forward, a lot of operating leverage here is going to happen.
Hmm.
And the company's management is well known for, displaying, strong asset additions. So I think we have long term bullish on the call, but yes, in the near term, the stock will remain volatile.
Right. How do you look at a ITI? Because they've unveiled a laptop in collaboration with Intel. The timing seems absolutely correct. Two consecutive sessions of smart gains coming in terms of ITI. What would your view be?
So I think even at the current level here, this stock looks fairly attractive. Although the upside has been pretty sharp in the last few days. This deal is definitely well positioned for ITI. They have the infrastructure and they could obviously ramp up production based on what kind of volumes they get in. But I think definitely a market would also look at the fact that sustainability of this business, because it's going to be a very natural thing that after this order is complete, the markets would look at whether this kind of relationship can get extended further. So I think near-term prospects appear to be good, and I think we'll await management commentary as to what is the sustainability of this business going forward.
Right. Avinash, SJVN, in this year itself, more than 100% up. When being a public company, this is once in a history that we've seen a SJVN see these kind of moves. The kind of orders it is bagging and the order book it is sitting on itself is really humongous. Do you think with the run up that we've already seen, are these still good times to invest?
I think Hiral, the company is sitting on a record order book, but if you see
Hmm.
the share price, I think it's already moved up by more than 100 odd percent. And in these kind of companies, clearly the margin expansion will not happen. I think it's all obviously based on the order book, volume inflow. So my sense is that anybody wants to invest in SGBN should wait for a reasonable good correction. We are seeing a lot of interest in these PSU names, and we have seen a lot of action in a lot of PSUs across sectors like defense or for that reason railway infra themes. So I would believe that SJVN definitely looks interesting from an investment point of view for the next couple of years. But I think buying on decline would make a better, economic sense to get a reasonably good risk reward.
Okay. How are you seeing a NIT Limited? I know a small company, but the last two trading sessions, Avinash, have been spectacular. I mean, we don't know what the reason could be there. Anything that you're picking up on a NIT, and what would you advise?
So actually, Viral, we were also quite surprised that this move coming on the stock. My sense is that there have some been reports that possibly some strategic investor or possibly some new deal is going to be inked by the company very soon. And I think probably that is the reason the stock has actually gained a lot of traction in the last few days. But I think going forward, I would believe that the opportunity in the kind of business NIT does looks quite interesting. So longer term, I think we continue to be positive. But I think this move which has happened, unless it is justified by some concrete data point, I think this move could definitely fizzle out if nothing is announced by the management in the very near term.
Right. Again, to see markets sustain above 20,000 and move higher, the participation with names like HDFC Bank, Reliance Industries, TCS, Infosys is absolutely a must, right? Now, taking the way these four stocks have performed so far, where would your bets be?
No, I think clearly, we are focused on the domestic, sectors, specifically sectors like automobiles,
Hmm.
auto components, capital goods, real estate. And you rightly pointed out that without the participation of the large caps, the sustainability of this market is little questionable. In fact, we've seen a large percentage of the growth coming in mostly from the small and the mid cap category of stocks. So I think, this definitely is a little concerning factor. Our sense is that the large cap names like HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, which have remained more or less underperformers for a long time, would be very good defensive bets for the next 6 to 12 months. So I think it's a matter of time, but I think these large cap names would definitely outperform, and I think you need to give in a little more time to see the risk reward coming in your favor.
Right. Avinash, apart from this, let's just quickly pull up a couple of PSUs. Defense PSUs, railway PSUs, metal PSUs, banking PSUs, power, energy. All of them have started to see profit booking in today's session. You have started to see profit booking coming in terms of the small cap as well as the mid cap names as well. Is this something, according to you, that is a one off? Or do you think you could expect this trend to continue? Because we did see a report from Kotak where they've now dropped coverage as well in terms of broader market stocks.
So I think clearly, Hiral, the kind of upside we have seen in small and mid cap categories, a lot of profit booking could come in. I think specifically in terms of railway infra stocks, if we look at companies like RVNL or RITES, typically, wagon manufacturing companies like Titagar or Jupiter Wagons, I think clearly the markets would gain some sort of equilibrium by seeing a little more profit booking in these stocks because valuations have become very expensive. And I think, it was liquidity only which was driving the valuations going ahead. So my sense is that this may not be a kind of a complete panic sell-off, but yes, a healthy profit booking is definitely expected, and I think this will continue for some more time.
Right. So that's with regards to broader markets as well. Thank you, Avinash, so much for joining us on the show and sharing the views. So, a whole host of stocks that we have discussed in trade, and clearly now the key is going to be how much profit booking can we see in terms of broader markets, as well as what's the kind of upside that could come in terms of large caps to sustain above those 20,000 levels in trade today. That's all that we have in this session. Thanks for watching, and lots more lined up on the other side. Please stay tuned to BQ Prime.